All right, guys, so we're going to talk more about quadratics real quick. I want to just go over really quickly with factoring. So we did this on Monday. So we're looking for factors of 15 that add to give us 8. So that's going to be 5 and 3. Put an x first. The first sign comes straight down. The second sign is a plus, so that tells me the two signs inside my parentheses have to match. So that is also plus. So then when we solve it, we just flip the sign, because again, this equals 0, so we just flip the sign, and we get -5 and -3 for the solution. And then we talked about AC method. So on this, we have to take our A times our C, which is 18. So now I'm looking for factors of 18 that are going to subtract to give me 3. So here are my factors of 18. I can see that 3 and 6. So the bigger number always goes first. First sign comes down, second sign is a minus. So that means the two signs inside my parentheses have to be opposites. So this is going to be x minus 3. And then I took A times C to help me out. So I multiplied it to put it in, so I got to take it out, I have to divide it. So we're going to divide by 2 and divide by 2. So we're dividing by our A value. So this is x plus 3, and then x minus 3 over 2. So this is x equals -3 and x equals positive 3 over 2. Okay? All right, pause the video and try the other two examples on your own. See if you can do them. All right, hopefully you paused and you have answers for these. So on this one, we would have, this would factor into x minus 8 and x plus 2. So we'd have x equals 8 and x equals -2. This one would factor down into 16 and 9. Both would be minus and then divide by our 16. So you would have x minus 1 and x minus 9/16. So you would have x equals 1 and x equals 9/16. So hopefully you understood that. If not, come talk to me. We'll figure it out. All right, now we're going to talk about quadratic formula. So quadratic formula, actually, before we get there, you can do some practicing on your factoring. So if you flip the page over, you'll see that there's factoring practice. So go ahead and do that before you move on. All right, so hopefully you paused, you did the other page. Now we're going to talk quadratic formula. Here is the quadratic formula. Here, know it, love it, memorize it. It's going to become your best friend. Okay? All right, and then here are some steps that I kind of put together to help us out. So let's go on to the third page. At the top, you'll see quadratic formula, just written quadratic formula. So go to this page. So the first thing we need to do is establish our A, our B, and our C. Okay, so your A, your B, and your C. A is the number that's with the variable squared, so in this case 5. Your B is what's with just the variable, so -8. Be careful, you got to bring down those signs. And C is -36. Okay, so that was step 1. Step 2 says start with what is under the radical. So we're going to start with b squared minus 4ac. So this is what we start with. Okay. So we have -8 squared minus 4 times 5 times -36. Okay. All right. Make sure when you plug this into your calculator, please make sure that you plug it in exactly how you see it written here on the screen, because you got to be careful with positive and negatives, multiplying, subtracting, the squaring a negative. There's lots of places you could go wrong on that. So be careful on that. So this equals 784. So now I'm going to plug it all into my equation. So again, here's the equation. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we've already done what's underneath the radical here. So we have -b. Well, b is already negative, so it becomes positive. So 8 plus or minus the square root of 784 all over 2 times 5. All right, so now we need to simplify a radical. So the first thing I always tell students is to check to make sure to see if it's a perfect square. And if you take the square root of 784, it's actually a perfect square, and that's 28. So this becomes 8 plus or minus 28 all over 10. Notice once you take the square root sign is gone. Now we have two equations here, one with a plus, one with a minus. So we're going to do 8 plus 28 divided by 10, that's one answer. And then 8 minus 28 divided by 10, and that's the second answer. So when you figure those out, you end up with, this one is 36 over 10, which is 3 3/5. And then this one here, so 8 minus 28 is negative 20, divided by 10 would give you negative 2. So there are your two solutions, 3 3/5 and negative 2. All right, let's do another one. So number 2, our A value is 5, our B value is 11, and our C value is negative 70. So we're going to start with our B squared minus 4AC. So we have 11 squared minus 4 times 5 times negative 70. Again, be careful with the parentheses and knowing what goes where.